And what a way to start yet another week here on PM Express, talking about the National Economic Dialogue with the President himself, starting off the whole conversation that has caught up with all and sundry across the country. The issue about Ghana's economy recovery and also getting the economy back to a place where many would want to see it in terms of economic growth and development. And that's why we're getting back to that conversation as well, doing our own side of the National Economic Dialogue, taking perspectives, varied ones, of course, tonight, looking at the proposals coming up and making progress on where the nation ought to be. And we must commend this team of about 7 who are doing quite an outstanding job, just bringing together varied views over a 2-day period, 48-hour exercise. Intensive one, of course, starting with the President himself, laying out his vision, broad plan, and what it is that all of these individuals, including Professor John Gachi, who by now many of you know of, will be joining us tonight and be explaining that broad plan to us in terms of having the entire nation dialogue on our economy. This is why this is important, because it brings back the conversation dating back to 2014, the Senchi Forum, which was obviously boycotted by, one of the political sides due to a number of considerations. But the President believes that it's time to bring that back, because the NDC, after taking power, believes that their agenda is to carry out a entire reform of the Ghanaian economy. And it's broadly captured in the vision that was espoused by the finance minister today. And you see him talking about the fact that without any form of comprehensive reforms, Ghana would only achieve upper middle income status after 2050. We don't want to delay this vision. We want to, get on track, get things moving for the country as fast as possible, because this is the stark reality of where we are as a nation. Ballooning debt of 736.9 billion Ghana cedis. Something needs to be done about that with a wobbly gross reserves ranging somewhere around 9 billion United States dollars. This is not a position where we want to be as a country, because this arguably affects everything that we do as a country in terms of our purchasing power and whatever it is that will impact the economy. This is crucial, and part of the reasons why perhaps we're running a bailout plan with the International Monetary Fund. So we want to grow beyond the 6.3 percentage points of average GDP growth as of 2024, between quarter 1 and 3. A reason why, if you take a look at this, we're feeling the impact as citizens, right? Late last year, inflation went as high as 54.1%. A lot of people across the country complaining about the standard of living, a reason for which, of course, then we have the interventions coming through from the erstwhile NPP administration, where the cutoff point was at the end of December 2024. Obviously, the NPP lost the election, and that's why we're faced with this challenge, isn't it? Because now a new administration will have to deal with all of these challenges, right? You're having a higher wage bill, energy subsidy issues that you have to deal with. The energy sector is quite crucial because we don't want the return of doomsday, obviously. Then the interest payments and weak expenditure controls, which the government says it wants to work on. This is why perhaps the NPP minority in Parliament is also concerned about what the President would do to keep the lights on, right? 2.5 billion United States dollars in terms of the debt that we're dealing with in the energy sector. How do we deal with that as a nation? And how do we even ensure sustainability when it comes to servicing our debt obligations? Ballooning debt, quite a striking amount here, over 700 billion cedis that we're dealing with in terms of our debt. So how do we deal with all of these issues when even our cash crop, which is cocoa, has not been performing well? The sector itself has been very challenging, as you see there from the data coming through from the Bank of Ghana and how we've been faring in the last few years. So we want indeed to do something about it, because even your highest cash earner or forex earner is, of course, dealing with debt as well. So we're just saddled and riddled with debt all throughout the sectors, a reason for which government is in dire need of funds and would want to change the story of the country, right? Because even our state enterprises that are supposed to be bringing us all of the funds that we deserve, they're not turning out to be profitable. Take a look at this top 5, right? None of them, nothing to write home about. ECG saddled with debt. Greco, same story. VRA, Tema Shipyard. You don't want to talk about the Railway Limited. These are not buoyant companies as you'd want to talk about them. Talk about Gihok and the rest, which are all having serious issues. And that's why many are saying, well, if you're looking at the proposal aspect, then perhaps a country that has a tax to GDP ratio of about 13.5%, we're not doing much as compared to what's happening within the SAP region. So shore up your investment. Let's get some more taxes. But this is also the same government that says, look, I want to cut down some of the taxes. Look at the revenues coming in, and you look at the COVID-19 levy, the e-levy, and then the betting tax, which are three tax handles that were introduced by the erstwhile administration. Quite unpopular, but it is some sort of a stopgap measure if you're looking at revenue inflows. Because yes, you may say that the e-levy isn't as good to you as an individual, but it's raking in quite some amount, 8 billion plus. Look at COVID levy, still generating some funds for the government, 5.1 in terms of betting tax. All of these, the government says it wants to do away with. So what will be the alternative? Because the critical question would then face the government as it moves forward, particularly when you look at the amounts we're losing, for instance, to tax exemptions, some 4.6 billion in all. Issues relating to how we're losing and hemorrhaging more in terms of public funds. So this is why we believe that we're looking at the perspectives, looking at the proposals and the way forward, because quite a number of proposals are being put forward. You take a look at what the Finance Ministry itself is saying on comprehensive reforms that ought to happen. There must be revenue mobilization, increased social spending, strengthening of fiscal control, and also passing out some ineffective energy subsidies, right? They need to go so we're able to pay the realistic amount and to get a buoyant energy sector. Then state-owned enterprises must be reformed as well. So that's a broad view of some of the major things that will happen, accompanied with this stark fiscal consolidation measures, which government believes will bring about some change. So that's the broad overview in terms of the proposal coming through from government. But in the next 48 hours, we will know what the way forward will be, because after the National Economic Dialogue, then we'll be looking at progress. How do we achieve that progress collectively and to get the buy-in of every Ghanaian? That's the question tonight. Be a part of the show here on PM Express with me, Blessed Suga. It's brought to you by Syntex Tank, Academic Times Journal, and also Pepsodent Cavity Fighter. We have more with my guest right after this break. Stay with me. And thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. This is PM Express, brought to you by Syntex Tank. It is tough, it is strong, Academic Times, and also the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter toothpaste. Don't forget that we need to talk about water tanks. If you want the secret to real water storage, it is simple. If your water tank doesn't have that tortoise on it, then it's certainly not a correct tank. So that's right, you need to opt for that tortoise tank, Syntex Tank. That's what it is. It's for champions and champion of all water tanks. It's strong and durable and built to handle our Ghanaian weather. Rain or shine, Syntex Tank has your back. So, my people, all you need to do is to go out, check out your tank, and if it certainly doesn't have a tortoise on it, it's simple. Just upgrade, join the Syntex Tank family today, and enjoy water storage that's tough like a tortoise. Call them on 0244 335 168 to buy now, or you can find out more about Syntex Tank across 400 agents nationwide, and you can obviously shop online as well. And we're being supported by Academic Times, making impact in many communities across the country. And Academic Times is here with a journal that's launching a distinctive graphic publications and also a journal to showcase the and also empower students across all levels of education, while the journal Tertiary G seeks to ensure that tertiary students research and also make impact in their communities by contributing to institutional development. The High G and Basic G will seek to develop and prepare young minds for their higher education as well. So be on the lookout for Academic Times, which is supporting students across all levels as well. So you can always get in touch with them via email, because they have a number of emails that you can reach them on. You can also call them on 053 050 8034 or reach out to them that's at info@theacademictimes.org, and you'll be finding out more. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter is also supporting us, and don't forget that each time we eat, those sugars are trapped in between our teeth. So Academic Time, the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, I should say, is that dependable solution. So day and night, just brush your teeth using the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter toothpaste, and you'll be sorted out, right? So it's time now to get back to our conversation, because we're focusing on that national dialogue. Joining me in studio is Dr. Stephen Amoah, who's Nhyaiso MP and also former Deputy Finance Minister. We're also being joined by Professor John Gachi, a member of the Planning Committee of the National Economic Dialogue, which is still underway. And Charles Kusi-Appiah is Head of Business and Economics Bureau at the Ghana Union of Traders Association. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us. I'll start off with Prof, because it's been a very long day for you, Prof. I believe doing quite a lot from the planning stage to where we are now, at least delivering on the very first part of what's supposed to be a long exercise, but it started. So let's get your own assessment of day one. The President was there, the Finance Minister, and all other stakeholders. What's your impression about day one of the National Economic Dialogue?
Well, thank you very much. Day one has been very good. As programmed, everything went on schedule. We had a welcome address from the chairman of the Planning Committee, followed by Dr. K.Y. Amoako, who provided a scene setting.
Right.
After that, the Minister for Finance provided detailed account about the state of the economy, and then that ushered us into hearing the President gave us the keynote address. After that, we broke into our various thematic sessions. We have 6 thematic sections covering macroeconomic stability, growth with depth, private sector-led growth, infrastructure development, structural reforms, and then we move on to restoring good governance and combating corruption. So these are the 6 thematic areas that we work on today.
And even the first question about the timelines. You're using 2 days to bring together all of these views. Do you feel you have enough time to carry out your work?
I think so. If you calibrate very well what your problems are and what you want to do, I think it is easy to target that, to operate. So they are working assiduously to ensure that we are able to get the best out of the 2 days to chart a new course.
There's the question as to what you'll be doing after the 2 days, because this will be crucial. You're getting the buy-in of all stakeholders, right? The highlights indicates that some groups of persons were not available, including the main opposition political party, the NPP. Do you have any explanation as to whether or not you officially invited them and perhaps they didn't show up?
I think we don't have any explanation because we wanted to have an inclusive engagement. So we had to invite all the stakeholders that are key to the dialogue. So we invited members of parliament. Of course, we cannot invite all members of parliament. So we invited the leadership of parliament and then some few people related to parliament. We invited some chiefs. We invited political parties, all the political parties. So we invited everyone. Well, when we invite you, we don't take decision for you whether you want to come or not. That is a decision you want to take. So if one particular party says they don't want to come, I think it's a choice that they have made. They have made the assessment that perhaps that is the best, is in the best interest of their political party. That's why they have made that decision. But what we are assessing is to see whether we have delivered on the premise of inclusive engagement. And I believe to a large extent, we have achieved inclusive engagement.
I see. And then now into the key issues coming up. The stark reality is the President is painting to us. Dr. Stephen Amoah, let me start off with you, because even if your party was not present at the dialogue today, many of you had watched the address via television, because it was live on Joy News. It was live all over the place. The reality is that our economy doesn't seem to be in a good place now. We're getting the buying of how to make it better. Where do we start from?
Thank you very much. My regards to our viewers and listeners this very evening. I think it's a very good question. Where do we start from? And I wish we could have, in fact, 24-hour discussions, because I think for once, as a country, we need to be honest with ourselves and with God, especially some of us that we've been blessed to have some understanding. I can't say I know everything.
Right.
And I don't think everyone has the knowledge of everything that we are doing. That's why we build on what others have built, and we learn together. The question is, most of the issues being raised today, the parameters or indicators, were raised, at least I can talk of 92. I was grown up, so I knew a few things. Those days, and after late His Excellency J.J. Rawlings, former President Kufuor, those things were raised, the same parameters, and it runs through all regimes. So the point is, what exactly is the cause? This is where, as a country, we need to come in terms with and really understand. As I'm talking to you, we can have all the, not that I'm against what they are doing, because bringing stakeholders together, to me, is very important to share ideas, build strategy out of collection of ideas, and then you develop your models. But there are so many wrong economic fundamentals that if we fail to realize and fix them, it doesn't matter who is in government. And some of them are so practical. In the first place, how do we deal with this whole thing about import-driven economy? If you depend on somebody, it means that you're in trouble. If something happens to the person, it happens to you. I think one of such experiences is what we had after the COVID. You can say whatever you want, but we depend on somebody's economy. In fact, global inflation rate post-COVID went in the hundreds. I mean, talking about the change in rate.
Yeah.
Global GDP, what happened to it? They grew negative 3.3. And we depend on these economies. So first thing, as a country, what can we do to be fully dependent, or to a very large extent? Two, you have a country that cost of doing business is so high. What is causing it? Have we sat down to think about it? There are so many wrong fundamentals, whether under party A or B. A country that governments, most of the time borrow on the domestic market at a higher rate than private sector. It's not done in anywhere the economic jurisdiction works. The T-bills give you returns higher than comparative assets from the private sector. So all the models from 1964 by Sharp, in the 70s by Ross, in the 90s by Wanan and Lian, and then I think getting to the 20s, we have them in. In fact, I did one of them after that. I mean, examined by Canadian, Pakistani, and Ghanaian professors. All these models, to a large extent, they are not applicable in Ghana. Because it's not done anywhere.
So we're out of gear, in your view?
There are so many problems. Even how we manage our monetary policy, I always raise a lot of issues. One is inflationary targeted. Because basically, we are doing that to bring inflation down. But you can check from 2012 up to 2024. About 90% of the time, as it goes up, this one. So apart from our own internal, unsystematic risk factors or specific mistakes we do or mismanagement we are talking about, we have a lot of problems that we need to fix.
And what I'm gleaning so far from what you're telling us is that first, structurally, we're import dependent. You want us to check the monetary
we need to check what?
Policy, as you're saying.
And then a lot of wrong economic anomalies, fundamentals. A lot of them.
Right.
Now, if you fail to, then if we want to move to where our president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, respectfully creating a picture as if the economy is in coma, totally, it is not true. Maybe, if you say we have challenges, that one is true. Maybe our president is still dwelling on what happened post-COVID, 2022, where the world grew negative 3.3. We grew negative, so we grew 0.4 or 5. We even grew positive, but it was too small. But look at this scenario. If I'm wrong, people should tell me. I've never seen in the history of this country that public and then civil service workers were asked to stay home, but they were paid for some months. And even beyond the months, they run a shift for way over 1 year. That if they are 10, 5 goes for 5 workers who go for 1 week or 2 weeks, another, and they're all being paid.
So
I'm coming, I want to end with this. The private sector sacked over 40,000 people. We have revenue shortfall that year, 12 billion. You know, everywhere in the world, majorly you use either debt financing or your revenue. So if your revenue goes down badly, you will resort to debt financing. And debt to GDP is what matters, not even the nominal value.
Right.
And GDP grew negative the world, Ghana 0.4. And we're using debt financing, your debt GDP will go up.
Right.
So we have uncontrollable factors. It doesn't mean Ghanaians can control.
I see.
Cannot complain. We need to look at all this. And then lastly, what was handed over to us should be the reference point. If you want to be fair, I'm not saying there are no challenges. 2016, our economy was growing 3.4%. As of the end of 2024, we're growing 6.3, almost twice as 2016. In fact, agriculture was growing 2.7. As of the time we're handing over, it was growing 4.5.
But if you look at your own first-time record...
Look at industries. Look at services. They are all outperforming.
Yeah, but just for the record, if you're looking at your own first-time record, you're not growing past that figure, and that's why there's a challenge.
No.
As many
we are growing
would point
almost
out,
around 7.
that same figure, but you haven't reached there. Yes.
But what I'm saying is, I think I explained things.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, because
even
of the challenge.
in management, if you want to appraise somebody's performance, there are factors you can say they are uncontrollable factors.
I see. Okay.
I don't know if you understand what I'm
I
saying.
clearly get your point, but this is what I want to
Your
get.
inflation went to 54.1, and within 12 months, you'll be able to come down to 24.
Okay.
Are we not still performing our obligations,
Right.
paying emoluments, going about our pro-poor policy and stuff like that? How can you say this?
Okay.
I'm not saying there are no challenges.
I get your point, but this is what I want
I
to
would
do.
never
Before
say there
I
are
hear
no
from
challenges.
Professor John Kachi, let's go online. Let's hear from Charles Kusi as well, because you belong to the private sector, the Ghana Union of Traders, and we just had Dr. Stephen Amah point out how, the private sector should be championing growth now. You've monitored the conversation since morning. What's the input of the Ghana Union of Traders on this whole national economic dialogue? Charles, you would have to unmute so we can hear the points you're sharing. Yes. Charles, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Right, yes, loud and clear. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Good evening to you, to Doug and your panelists and to your viewers. Yes, it's been a mantra that businesses, private business for that matter, we are the engine of growth. But you always ask yourself, how has the engine been serviced? How has it been greased? And how is the engine performing? And over the period, you realize that businesses and private sectors have not taken a center stage in economic narratives of this country. And it's basically because of, for better words, lack of engagement from central government. And we appreciate such invitation that let's talk about our economy. Let's look at how we can change the status quo. Let's see how we can make Ghana the glorious country we all dream to have. So Doug was talking about, Dr. Stephen was talking about our economy being import driven. That is a fact. But when you drill in details, it is not local businesses that are driving import in Ghana. Our economy is run almost 70 to 80% by foreign companies. So you look at the quantities of import by local businesses, it is nothing to complain about. You see, when you are a country and you're so much focused on FDIs, therefore you relax your policies to ensure that more foreign companies comes in, they enjoy all the freebies at the expense of local businesses. This is the kind of economy you have. You look at FDI policies that allow foreign expatriates that want to enter into the trading space to bring about $1 million, that's PPE, that's property, plant, and equipment. And we don't have a standard of measuring the values of the equipment. So they can bring, in terms of liquidity, they can bring as small as it could be, and they overprice their equipment. But when they want to do imports, Their import values are beyond the 1 million that they have brought as equity registration, thereby putting so much pressure on our little forests that are reserved for the local businesses. So we will be talking about this over the period, but until we look at the structure of the economy, where we have given majority of the lucrative part of it to foreign companies, we will not have a solution. When you look at the extraction industry, it's managed by foreign companies. And we are a country that we don't have retention policies for expatriates in terms of repatriation of profits and dividends. And you want to control your forest?
Okay, but this point, I believe you've all been raising as Guta for quite some time now. Are you not becoming unfriendly to the investor community because you agree that it's just not your capital that will develop this country? We need investment from elsewhere too.
Yes, so far as we need investment, we must make sure there's fairness in the market. There's equity in the market. We don't become over-friendly to expatriate at the expense of collapsing businesses. So there must be fair game, fair play in the market so that, you see, in a period where your country is not politically stable, then you want to go on that knee to attract more foreigners to come in. But you can understand that Ghana has been a hub of most of foreign companies because we have a stable political environment. So therefore, we cannot still be holding on to the past policies that we decided not to attract foreign expatriates and FDIs. You see, when you continue to do one thing over the period and you're expecting results, my brother, we will not get anywhere.
So have you already tabled these concerns at the National Dialogue today?
Of course, it's part of the discussions we place on it. And even before that, we've engaged governments. I mean, we've engaged previous governments and MPP. We are still engaging NDC. We engage GIPC. That is a center agency for attracting investment. That let's look at your laws. How is it helping us? You see, a typical example is that when foreign companies fulfill the requirement of equity registration, there's no monitoring to ensure attrition. So a company will come in, meet BOG equity registration, get license to operate in Ghana. The next day, he's at the commercial bank transferring money. When he transfers same money, what money is he going to use to trade in Ghana? That means that he has to overburden the little resources we have here.
I see. So that's
this narrative has changed. We will have national economic dialogue, and we will not go anywhere. The fundamentals Dr. Stephen Amoah said is something we should look at it to change the structure, change certain policies, to relax certain policies for local businesses to grow. Let me tell you all this. You see, if you call us the center or the engine of growth, policies about us must be conscious. It must be so targeted that the next 5 years, I want to grow my local businesses.
Okay, and that's what you've raised in part about, foreign involvement and all of these issues that you've tabled before a number of stakeholders. Let's come in studio and speak to Professor Gachi, who's also with us. And Prof, I'm wondering how you're collating all of these views. Are you just collating the views at the forum, or perhaps you're monitoring the likes of Dr. Stephen Amoah and the others who are making inputs at this moment?
Not a subscriber to the dialogue. Right. So I'm not sure that he's speaking to the dialogue. That's the first thing. But the point is that the dialogue has been structured in such a way that all the views that they are expressing will find expression in one thematic area or the other. Right. So if you take, for example, what our friend is talking about.
The issue about the foreign involvement.
If you look at private sector-led growth, those issues are being discussed there. If you come to growth with debt, that we are talking about growth that is spearheaded by productivity across board, diversification, value addition, expansion of export, infusion of technology in production processes, and also taking care of the development of human capital development. So all those things have a
being
place.
Discussed, right?
Some of the issues that the Honorable raised are also going to fund, especially under restoring macroeconomic stability. So all the issues have a place to be.
I'm particularly concerned about our debt because I feel that in all of these national economic dialogue that we're doing, the biggest challenge now, and correct me if I'm wrong, will be the issue about our debts, the debts we owe and how we are going to honor those obligations. How much will it feature on the agenda and the work that you're doing?
Well, debt is part of the macroeconomic stability discussion. So issues of inflation, exchange rate environment, interest rate environment, the debt levels, not only the debt level, but the management of the debt itself. What we have now, is it adequate enough to manage the debt? The approaches we are using. For example, if we take Debt Management Office, which is under the control of the Chief Director of the Ministry, under the same bureaucracy. Some people believe that Debt Management Office should be an independent one.
All these issues are coming up already?
All those issues are part of
So we have an independent setup to tackle our debt? How is it? What's the proposal like? Yes.
I'm not saying that is the proposal.
Okay, yes. Well,
the proposals will come after.
Obviously.
Yes, right. So we don't want to preempt it. But when you are highlighting debt, sometimes when we are talking about debt, we are only interested in the quantum of the debt. But that should not be the issue. But it should be how the approaches we use to manage the debt to become sustainable. And so we need to question the approaches we are using to manage the debt itself. And I just highlighted one. Okay. Of course, we have the architecture that says that we have a debt management office, but that is under the control of the Chief Director of the Ministry of Finance. But is that the best approach? Is that how debt management office is occasioned in Nigeria, is occasioned in UK and the rest? There are variations. Okay, so all those things will be thought about under the macroeconomic stability issue. And other issues like corruption and the rest will go under good governance and the rest. So those are the points I'm making.
But from the engagements, yes.
But the point is that, you see, the forum or the dialogue is occasioned because we have multiple challenges. It's not only debt that is the challenge of the Ghanaian economy. In fact, in 2024, the World Bank report on the public finance review of Ghana indicated that even our investment in agriculture is not efficiently spent and is not well targeted. We have problem in agriculture. Cocoa sector is in a mess. We have dropped in production level almost by 50%. We should be worried about that. Cocoa sector is under threat of galamsey. Our cocoa may be downgraded very soon in the international market. These are problems of the economy. It's not just about debt. Debt issues are there, DDEP, how it actually demoralized the people, demoralize the banking sector, and etc. Those issues are there, but there are much, much more deeper problems of the Ghanaian economy that we should think about and find solutions.
The president has started off the conversation already, but yes.
This issue about the global problem that we face, whether it is global problem or not global problem, the challenge that those problems face are resident on us. We as a people who have to find solutions to address them properly.
In fact, I was just about to go to that question. Yes.
If we are addressing them and we are not using the best approach, we still have problems that we need to deal with. In fact, when we are dealing with COVID and the rest, there's no country reported around us that says that they are not able to pay their workers. So that it's only Ghana within the committee of countries that is paying workers who are not going to work. So that we shouldn't continue to be repeating some of those things. We have real problems.
I get it. But the reason why I wanted to ask the question was because of what the president said about the reality of the economy. It's as though, for some, he's opening up for a political conversation or a partisan conversation instead of having, as you're saying, a dispassionate bipartisan support and input into what's supposed to be a national dialogue when he talks about what the erstwhile administration has done. He's spoken on countless occasions, painting the picture that, well, they haven't done well at all. Is that where you are picking up from, the benchmark as to where we are now? What's the assessment? Where are you picking up from?
Well, I'm not doing assessment based on political parties.
Right.
I'm doing assessment based on the economy of Ghana. The economy of Ghana as it is today, it's not efficient, it's not spending efficiently.
Right.
We don't have a high-scale productive spending. That is creating problem for us. Our social intervention programs, well-intentioned, but they're not delivering the best.
So your point is it's not being politically hyped?
Yeah, it's not delivering the best of, benefit to the Ghanaians.
Yeah.
So we have problem in every area.
But how bad are the problems? That's the basis of the question, because just like Dr. Amma was pointing out, if you want to do an objective assessment, you need to take off from somewhere where everyone knows where we are. Is the president being a bit hyper about what our situation is, or perhaps that's the reality
in my opinion, no, because the president just took office 2 months ago.
Right.
Something was handed over to him. He needs to tell us what was handed over to him. That is what he is doing. It is another thing for those who handed over to him to justify whether what they have done is not exactly what the president is saying. But that does not mean the president should not tell us the dire situation in the agri sector, the dire situation in the cocoa sector, the dire situation in the situation where the indigenous Ghanaians are not participating effectively in the extractive sector. The president should not say all this.
I'm worried for you, Prof. I'm worried for you, Prof, because then when that happens, you, the technical people, are unable to bring the politicians to come along, because then they'll be divided. Does that not make your work more difficult?
I don't think we are doing political work.
Yeah.
What we are doing is that we have challenge in the country.
I'm saying it makes your work difficult, isn't it?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Doc, what do you think about this?
I don't think. But the point that we need to be serious about some of these issues, politics will come and go in the discussion, but we need to focus and address the main challenges of our economy.
Right.
And that is what we are focused on doing at the dialogue.
Dr. Amma, when will you submit your official memo, perhaps either as an individual or as a collective, the NPP, to the National Economic Dialogue team? Because they will be waiting for your input, isn't it?
It was much more parliamentary. And then we have our leadership. And of course, we have shared responsibilities.
Right.
And definitely every group or team organization has its structural and then functional mandate. So most of these decisions will have to be taken and led by...
at the leadership level. Yeah, but I'm saying that because officially, we've not seen, to be fair, officially we've not seen any statement communicating that at least a certain group of people, either the NPP or any other political party...
Your questions are very important, and I love that. But I think if you look at the conversation we are having, we are talking about strategy. And strategy has about 3 lenses. One, strategy by ideas, collection of ideas. And you build your models out of that. I think what they are doing now falls within that. Somebody doesn't have to necessarily. If you do that, I think that will be more potent and nice, or nicer. Somebody can write, put something official, even sign it. Some of the discussions we are having now, I'm sure the good ones
should form the basis.
Exactly. You understand what I'm saying? But I think before I want to continue what you're talking about. My brother from the private sector, Guta, raised issues about how probably, and they put everything to the doorstep of the government, or governments, not necessarily one government. They are right. We need to analyze this in twofold contexts. One, systematic risk factors, where you're talking about bigger picture of the market risk, where maybe government can fit somewhere in it. That one I agree. Because there are factors that they are not within their reach or ability or capacity or capability. We also always gloss over the fact that we have very weak entrepreneurial ecosystem as a country. the ability and the orientation and the inclination of our own investors. We were talking about foreigners taking over our market. Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Are they not being normally protected?
Yes, we have laws that deal with those who do retailing, whether they are being adhered to or not. I agree to what he's saying. But we should also look at our investors themselves. Look, present regime can give about, if you like, they should try this. Pick about 100 entrepreneurs or investors, devoid of politics. Let the president issue paper, whether illegally that works. Give each of them 5 million Ghana cedis. No interest. You give it to them. After 2 years, go and check. So, as much as we are talking about giving them adequate and cheap finance, they also have specific, I call it unsystematic risk factors, company-specific risk factors as a country, whether in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their ability. Generally, not all of them. They also meet the world standard. So anybody that wants to finance them should also go into an area of orientation so that they build their capacities, even though they are from private sector. I think that is one thing we should critically look at. And yet, the cost of doing business in our country, the adequacy of funds, so they are also, tremendous challenge or whatever to them. And these also have some underlying unfortunate causes in terms of policy, in terms of the behaviors of our market. Yeah. For instance, if, as I said, if T-bills are giving returns more than comparable private sector, if right now I'm here, you can give me your money, you can loan me money, an amount of money, and then my lady here, I don't know what she does, but by observation, me and Prof here might be richer than her. What it means is that she poses bigger risk. So if you give me money, you're expecting higher returns from her than me to compensate for the risk you're taking. So government assets are classified as risk-free in that category. So they are supposed to get small returns. But here is the case, governments are getting higher returns. So even the banks are pushing monies into the banks. So the private sector, they don't get enough money.
I see. This is what I want us to do quickly.
Also a lot of problems.
Yeah, the point about taxes. Yeah, well, yes. Before you deal with the taxes now, and I'll take Charles's view on that. The NDC government has made its posture clear that the three handles you introduced, the COVID-19, e-levy, tax on betting, it will all be gone as part of, the measures to stir growth.
And they will not introduce any new?
Okay, so that's the question. You feel that will be the biggest challenge for them now?
One of the things that I'm praying that great men like Prof and Co are on board. I hope they also don't have any underlying interest. I know I haven't seen it, but I'm praying that they don't. Because Ghana here, we have professors and doctors, respectfully, not about him, I'm talking about Ghana, who have NDC or MPP or CPP underlying interest. Or sometimes they don't have, but influence of the powers that be, whether party A or B. But honestly, I think there are common issues in Ghana here that, brother, if we don't take care and handle them the way we are supposed and try to please the so-called ordinary Ghanaians, people will say this, when NDC guys are in power and they want to introduce taxes, what do? MPP guys will inside the public, we go onto the street and they get scared.
But objectively speaking,
I'm ending.
Yes.
The same way if MPP guys are in power. So it's like now tax issues are becoming like something that they are, exactly. I think tax policies are calibrated in nature. It depends on the space, the fiscal space. Look, when NDC came to power, you can check from their own budget statement. From 2014, 2016, tax items, they either introduce or increase. You can count as many as about 26. That's why they did the real estate taxes.
Yeah, but you came on the back of the promise that you were anti-tax that you were moving into production. For the sake of time. So I want us to deal with this.
Let me finish this. Right. When MPP came, first budget 2017, tax items we reduced or took away entirely were about 70. But later we introduced a lot of them. I don't think
these three, COVID-19, e-levy, betting tax.
So if you look at our fiscal space, even me, I still think we need more taxes.
Really?
But No, I'm telling you, we are running what I describe as negative effective tax rate economy. We are running ritual deficit economy. What I mean is that whether in this UNPP, the amount of money government outlays every year, if you divide among all the houses in Ghana, and each house gets, say, 10,000 Ghana cedis, the amount of money the same government generates every year, excluding loans, they are far less than 10. So if you say you raise taxes, then you keep on borrowing.
So that's the most objective thing to do.
So these are the things NPP and DC, for once, we should stop the unnecessary, unproductive, dysfunctional blame games and say that, yes, we used to go against NDC, NPP on these, but these are the realities.
So you want the dialogue to feature that clearly?
No, they should come out with a framework that will let Ghanaians or let us all understand that anytime our fiscal space is getting to this level, let us understand that we need taxes, we need revenue.
Right, Charles.
And the communication that comes with it for other relevant stakeholders, Ghanaians, to also be brought along the same level, along the social strategy.
To depoliticize.
It's also very important.
Charles, let me hear from you in a minute. Your take on these 3 tax handles that are likely to be gone by the first budget presentation. Briefly.
Yes, in austerity period, where businesses are suffering, when the ordinary Ghanaians have lost the purchasing power, the only source of survival is giving tax cuts to give them some relief to survive.
Dr. Amoah says that's what you would say as businesses.
Yes, because I'm coming. Yeah. Dr. Amoah, you will disagree, but let me tell you what.
Right.
When you crowd out business through taxation, when business collapse because you have overpriced through taxation, what else will you get your revenue? When you have introduced so many taxes, the ordinary Ghanaian have lost his working capital, purchasing power, and he cannot buy. Where is the economic activities to generate revenue for government?
Yeah, but he's also saying, look at the other side, because government needs the revenue.
No, what's happening is this. Government needs money, but you must be rationalizing your expenditure if you want to change the narrative now. We have over the period shown that, we can add more taxes and price out the business. What have been the effect on the economy? So it's time for us to change the conversation. Why don't we give tax cut to businesses? So funds that we're supposed to use to pay taxes, let them use as augmenting working capital to expand their businesses. The moment businesses are expanded, then it go for headcount. That means that the teeming youth that are unemployed, the private sector can employ them.
I see.
When businesses are growing and their profits are coming up, that means you get revenue through CIT, which is very sustainable. So why do you want to price them out and they are not able to employ, they are not able to grow, and you government also have to have revenue shortfall? The next year you go back and say, I'm increasing tax again. What kind of narrative is this?
So you support these 3 tax handles, to be gone by the
It's not only about this. Right. They should look at the consumption tax as VAT. That has been a killer to many businesses.
Okay. All right. Well, Prof, you have a lot of work to do. I'm wondering, once you deal with this issue of depoliticizing tax, perhaps you might want to tell us what we'll be expecting tomorrow as well.
Yeah. So tomorrow we'll continue with the breakout sessions into the thematic areas, and that will take some time. Around 12 p.m. Or 12 noon, we'll have our lunch. Then arrival of guests will start for the last day. We will get some kind of engagement with the key sectors of the economy.
Okay.
That will feature the finance minister, the energy minister, agric minister, minister for trade, minister for labor. Will also be part.
So they would all take turns to address us.
So what they would do, we call it high-level engagement or dialogue. So they will give us takeaways from the sections that concern their ministries. And then we will deliberate on it to iron out if there are some difficulties or misunderstanding in those sessions. So that will be done. And that is actually to assure all of us that those that the issues concern are participating in the process, and they have taken issues that they are going to work with at their ministries. So that is another level of commitment to implement the recommendations that will come out of the out of the process.
I hope that you factor the issue about taxes in it, because it's key.
Taxes is
Depoliticizing it.
no, taxes are being discussed under macroeconomic stability, thematic area.
Right.
So I think we are aware that the tax environment must be flexible, and we need to calibrate the tax level. In fact, the speech that the Minister for Finance gave, he told us about how rigid the VAT environment is. So we need to recalibrate the VAT to give some breathing space to businesses. So you don't pile taxes on businesses and people unnecessarily. There is a level that you cannot add more taxes. Right. But the taxes should be efficient. The taxes to deliver, the cost of collecting the tax, and their compliance with the tax should be efficient. Those are the things that you want to achieve with your fiscal policy. You should use your fiscal policy to drive growth. You should use your fiscal policy to drive business development. Those are the things that I believe we want to achieve.
There's a lot of high expectation for you.
Taxes should not be done in a manner.
We need to go in 30 seconds. Ghanaians are expecting a lot in 30 seconds. What would you say to them?
I must indicate that the Vice President of the Republic will be closing the section tomorrow.
I see. Well, grateful to Dr. Stephen Amoah. We're done. Unfortunately,
we
need to go.
Put this across.
10 seconds. 10
seconds. Give me designate whatever as former finance minister. Please, I was former
deputy finance minister. He's done his own introduction.
I don't want my boss to come and meet me.
Grateful. Great conversation we had with Professor John Gachi, Dr. Stephen Amoah, and also to you, Charles Kumi, for joining us online. Grateful. And we'll see you again. This has been PM Express with me, Blessed Scott. Bye-bye. Good night.